Yesterday, we studied chapter 8 and we saw how Krishna is glorifying the devotional service. He is telling about the yogic process, but welcome, Amalarjun Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, that pronounced to you and to all the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
So, yesterday we covered 8th chapter and we saw how Krishna is glorifying the process of devotional service. But how he is doing that? He is also comparing it with the Ashtanga Yoga. First of all, Krishna tells how difficult Ashtanga Yoga is. We already discussed this in 6th chapter. And then Krishna tells how the destination for a yogi is dependent on how he leaves his body, either accidentally or by his own preparation. And there were so many conditions which were given by Krishna. Like he should leave his body during Uttarayan, when sun travels towards north. And then during the month, he should leave his body in Shukla Paksha, which is when moon is growing. And during the day, when there is light, not during the night. And even during the day, there should be on the auspicious moments. And then if such a yogi chants Omkar, then he is transported to Brahmajyoti. So this is the destination of a yogi. After all these permutation combinations, the best he gets is Brahmajyoti. And then Krishna is encouraging Arjun that, Arjun, my devotees don't need to worry about this. They know these paths, but they don't worry about it. They just depend on me. Ananya Bhakti, Kevala Bhakti, Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service. So like that, Krishna is emphasizing on the devotional service. Now, he comes to the direct teachings of devotional service. In 7th chapter, 8th chapter, yes, Krishna glorified devotional service, but he also compared them with other processes, which Krishna does in throughout Bhagavad Gita. But now we are going into a very, very important chapter. This chapter is called as Raj Vidya Raj Guhya Yoga. In Sanskrit, it is called as Raj Vidya Raj Guhya Yoga. And Prabhupada gave the name the most confidential knowledge. What is confidential knowledge? Confidential knowledge means a knowledge which is not easily available. But we know Bhagavad Gita is available everywhere. How it is most confidential knowledge? It is most confidential knowledge because although it is everywhere available, people don't accept the teachings. So it is more rare, most confidential. It is like you have the locker in front of you, but you don't have a key. So it becomes more rare. So Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 deals with pure devotional service. Let us start with reading a quotation of Srila Prabhupada, and I will be targeting those who are not switching on their videos. So let us start. Anisha Mataji, would you like to read?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. The very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. And in the second and third chapters, the special knowledge described is called confidential. Topics discussed in the 7th and 8th chapters are specifically related to devotional service, and because they bring enlightenment in Krishna consciousness, they are called most confidential. But the matters which are described in the last chapter deal with unalloyed pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential.
So there are three levels: Guhya, Guhyatara, Guhyatamam. Guhya means confidential. So what Krishna described in second chapter, third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that is Guhyatara. Guhya means confidential knowledge. To have realization of one's identity is Guhya Gyan, confidential knowledge. But then Krishna gives enlightenment in Krishna consciousness. He talks about himself from seventh chapter. So seventh and eighth chapter are called Guhyatara, more confidential. And then Guhyatamam, most confidential, ninth chapter. Actually, if we see whole Bhagavad Gita, there are 18 chapters, and we saw how the middle 6 chapters are the most important chapters, which are dealing with bhakti, devotional service. And within these 6 chapters also, 9th and 10th chapter, which are the middle of these 6 chapters also, they are the most confidential knowledge. They are the essence of whole Bhagavad Gita. Actually, if we study 10th chapter, we can see there is Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita also in 10th chapter. See, previous ages, the knowledge was given in the form of sutras, in the form of like concise formulas. They are called sutras. Like when Brahma gave knowledge to Narad about Bhagavat, he told him 4 verses, just 4 verses. And then Narad Muni told to Vyas those 4 verses. And then Vyas means who expands. So Vyasadev then expanded those 4 verses with his realization, with what he heard from previous acharyas, and then he elaborated it in 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. In the same way, Bhagavad Gita also, in the very concise formula, compact form, is available in 4 verses. That is 10.8, 10.9, 10.10, and 10.11. That is called Chatur Shloki Bhagavad Gita. So these 4 verses are essence of whole Bhagavad Gita. That also comes in 10th chapter. So this 9th and 10th chapter mainly becomes the essence of whole Bhagavad Gita. And they are very dear to devotees because they are dealing with Ananya Bhakti. Ananya Bhakti means pure devotional service. Ananya, not any other alternative. Ananya. Although chapter 8 also Krishna spoke in the 14th verse, in the later verses, he told about Ananya Bhakti, but he also spoke about Yoga Mishra Bhakti, where yogic processes were also described. But in 9th chapter, only Ananya Bhakti is stressed. Only Ananya Bhakta is glorified. Therefore, this chapter is very, very important. So we saw in the 7th chapter, where the Bhakti Yoga starts, Krishna gives knowledge about himself. He encourages devotees to fix the mind on Krishna. He tells how Krishna is the source of everything. He tells how 4 types of people surrender to Krishna. And he criticizes demigod worshippers and impersonalists. Then we come to 8th chapter, where Krishna describes how to attain him at the time of death. And he compares it with the yogis. Now Krishna is talking about the practice of pure devotional service. Okay, the pure devotee remembers Krishna at the time of death and he goes back to Krishna. But how it is possible for a devotee to remember him at the time of death? By the practice of pure devotional service. So that becomes the subject matter of 9th chapter. where Krishna is talking about practice of pure devotional service. Yes, Namrasita Mataji. Please unmute. Namrasita Mataji. Okay. Varat Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Yeah, Prabhu, your voice is it's cracking,
Okay.
The sound.
Let me change my connection. जियो इंटरनेट थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम कर रहा है. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Is it better now?
Even I was feeling. It
Hare
was
Krishna.
breaking.
Is it better now?
No, it's disconnected.
Is it okay now?
Yes.
Now it's okay, Prabhu. It was cracking before.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. Namrasita Mataji. Yes.
Oh, actually, now since we have started this chapter, I had questions from the previous chapter. So should I ask now or we'll ask at the end of it?
Yeah, you can ask. Yes.
Prabhu, I just wanted to know, like at the night of Brahma, what happens to the other living entities who are residing in the same planet? Will they sleep?
Yes. Yes. They also go to sleep. Even Lord Brahma goes to sleep. Then only there is partial devastation.
Again, like Brahma, they also get life after Brahma day starts. They
Yes.
awaken.
Yeah. When Brahma wakes up, they also resume their activities. See, if children will play around, parents cannot sleep. So Brahma makes sure everybody sleeps. Then only he can sleep. Otherwise, they will disturb Brahma. So Brahma is very clever.
And
Okay.
Prabhu, what happens to the, like you said, the other planets, they get devastated, and only Brahmaloka. So what happens to the living entities of other planets? Where do they go reside?
They go in the body of Mahavishnu temporarily. They take rest there. And then again, when creation happens, they again come into different species. Okay.
When major devastation happens, then also they reside there.
Yeah, that is the resting place.
Thank you.
Okay, so let us enter into this most confidential knowledge. Okay. Radha Kripa Kataksh Mataji, can you read this quote?
Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his potent service, describes in this 9th chapter matters more confidential than any he has already disclosed. Bhagavad Gita 9.1 purport.
So now this chapter is going to deal with the highest information which till now Krishna has not shared. So let us see the contents of this chapter. This chapter is dealing with the following subject matter. The first 3 verses, Krishna is telling what are the qualifications and disqualifications for hearing about Krishna. This is the first 3 verses. Then Krishna is again revising his inconceivable relationship with the material world. He every time does that because we are attached to material world. And the method of teaching is to take from known to unknown. A good teacher, he takes from known to unknown. So Krishna is the best teacher. Vande Krishna Jagat Guru. So he is taking from material world to spiritual world. So Krishna will tell his relationship with material world. Then he will compare how the non-worshippers and worshippers, that means atheistics and theistics. He will also compare demigod worshippers and pure devotees. And then he will summarize the chapter by glorifying pure devotional service. So this chapter is mainly dealing with pure devotional service. Let us start this chapter. And the first verse of this chapter is again very favorite to Srila Prabhupada. And second verse also. The first two verses were very favorite verses of Srila Prabhupada. So devotees can recite Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Bhagavan Vacha
Idam tu te guhyatamam
Ute Vyatamam
Pravakshyami anasuyave
Pravashyami Anasuyaye
Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam
Jnana Vijnana Sahitam
Yagyatva Mokshase Shubhat. Okay, Arun Charan Prabhu, can you read? Radha Chand, okay.
In the great personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjun, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be revealed out of the form of existence.
So Krishna is telling Arjun what he is going to tell now. Pravakshami, I am going to speak. Krishna is going to speak. Pravakshami means I am going to speak something very important. Anusuyave, that you have to hear it without envy. How one can be envious to Krishna? Arjuna was not envious of Krishna because he was fully devoted to Krishna. But Krishna is telling anasuyave, not envious. Prabhupada gives an example that how many scholars, they write commentaries on Bhagavad Gita, but they don't want Krishna in their commentaries. Like in India also, we hear many times, Ram Rajya, but they don't want Lord Ram. No Ram, but we want Ram Rajya. That is mentality of Ravan actually. Ravan wanted opulence of Ram, but not Ram. In the same way, being envious of Krishna means not tolerating his presence. So different commentators, they write their commentaries, but they don't want Krishna. Okay, this is about others. Actually, it is very easy to point out others. Like when Srila Prabhupada went to America and he was preaching. So Prabhupada used to tell in his lectures, Mayavadis are offenders to Krishna, and Mayavadis are, you should not associate with Mayavadi, and Mayavadi is this, and Mayavadi is that. So devotees used to think that Mayavadi is a person back in India who has given a lot of trouble to Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, Prabhupada doesn't like this person Mayavadi. But later on, they came to know actually Prabhupada is talking about us only. We are Mayavadis. So when Krishna is telling here about envy, we should think, are we also envious of Krishna? Yes, we are also envious of Krishna. How we are envious of Krishna? When we don't appreciate his presence, either in the form of others' glory, either in the form of any success around us, we become envious. But we have to understand that without Krishna's sanction, that person cannot achieve that success. Even when some calamity happen in our life, we forget that Krishna is the controller. That is another way we are envious of Krishna. Because we think, no, Krishna is not a good manager. Look how these calamities and miseries coming in my life. That means Krishna is not a good manager. Another aspect of envy. So Krishna is making sure that who can receive this knowledge, who is not envious. One who is not envious, Krishna will give him knowledge. Idam Jnanam. Jnanam means pure devotional service. Here Jnanam doesn't mean dry philosophical speculation. No. Here Jnana means Sambandha Jnana. See, when we talk about knowledge, that knowledge is Sambandha Jnana. Sambandha Jnana means reconnecting ourselves with Krishna. And it is very important that we reconnect our lost relationship with Krishna. How we do that? When spiritual master, when scriptures, they revive that Sambandha Jnana through knowledge. So here Krishna is telling Jnanam, this Jnanam doesn't mean dry knowledge, but most confidential knowledge, that is Bhakti. What is Bhakti? Prahlad Maharaj tells. Sravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Padasevanam, Archanam Bandhanam Dasyam, Sakhyam Atma Nivedanam. So this Gyan should lead to practical activity. First aspect is Shravanam. Okay, hearing. But then what to do after hearing? Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. Therefore, Jnana Vijnana Sahitam. Vijnana means realized knowledge. Or Vijnana means application of knowledge. It is not just dry sentiment. This famous quotation from Nectar of Instruction of Srila Prabhupada, where Prabhupada says, devotional service is not imaginative ecstasy, but practical activity. Such a high-class statement of Srila Prabhupada. He says not imaginative ecstasy, but practical activity. So, Jnana Vijnana Sahitam. Krishna will give knowledge and he will also tell the practical application of that knowledge. Not that I have read Bhagavad Gita, I have become a devotee. No. One time one person came to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was giving a lecture in the ISKCON temple. I think it was in Juhu. And this person complained to Srila Prabhupada that Prabhupada, I sat through your whole lecture, but your devotees, they sleep in your lecture. Acha? Prabhupada asked, do everyone sleep? Yeah, everybody sleeps. I saw everybody. So whole lecture I was seeing them only. They were sleeping. Were they sleeping during whole lecture? Maybe they heard 1 or 2%. Otherwise, 99% they were sleeping. Prabhupada said, if by hearing 1%, these boys and girls have spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, what did you do after hearing one lecture? You are just finding faults. So one thing is hearing, but another thing is applying that knowledge. Another person came to Srila Prabhupada. He said, I can recite whole Bhagavad Gita in 1 hour. I know it by heart. Prabhupada said, can you live Bhagavad Gita for 1 hour? That is more important. Can you live it for 1 hour? No. So, Jnana Vijnana Sahitam. And when we practice with Jnana and Vijnana, then Yagyatva Moksha se Shubhat. Then there is Ashubhat. Ashubhat means all inauspicious things. The miseries of material existence, they are relieved. So devotee is relieved from all kinds of material miseries. Yes, Namrasita Mataji.
Regarding the enviousness to Krishna, I just wanted to know that like there are many people who have written commentaries on Bhagavad Gita, like Radha Krishna, also Dr. Radha Krishna. So I wonder sometimes that being a human being, how can a person be envious of God? So like in the Vedic era, I can understand they used to think they are at the level of God because they had that much of powers and they had that much of knowledge. But being in Kali Yuga, how can a human being be envious of the Lord?
Suppose this is my
it.
phone. This is my phone. iPhone, no, this is my phone. I am not phone. This is my phone. Now tomorrow you happen to come to Ujjain and you take this phone. Is it okay if you take my phone without my permission? That means you are competing with me. you are saying that why Krishna Kishore should enjoy this phone. I should enjoy this phone. In the same way, all living entities who are trying to exploit material nature, they are envious of Krishna because they cannot tolerate why Krishna should be enjoyed. They know it or they don't know it. That is different matter. But one thing is for sure, they are not enjoyers. And when they think themselves to be enjoyer, that is like competing with the Supreme Lord. So that way they are envious. Another way of being envious, which we discuss now. See, Krishna tells in 10th chapter that wherever you see anything glorious, that is spark of my splendor. Now, when we don't appreciate people, when we don't, become happy in their success, is that not envying that spark of splendor? And whose spark of splendor? That is Krishna's spark of splendor. So we are envious of Krishna that way also. Another way, which I discussed little back, when things doesn't happen in our life as we planned, we complain, we become depressed. That means one who is controlling, he is not doing his job properly. Is that not being envious of the Supreme Lord? So people may not feel it directly that no, I should be worshipped on the altar. No, generally people don't have that expectation. But in these ways, they are envious. And the Prabhupada says in one purport, the last snare of Maya is when person starts to think that he will become God. So that is the highest level of illusion. But on general level, these are some ways where people get envious of the Supreme Lord. You are not envious, therefore it's difficult for you to understand. But the conditioned souls, generally they are envious of the Supreme Lord. So this is what Krishna is saying here. These are few expectations. Actually, primarily one expectation, which Krishna is saying, one has to be non-envious. Even Srimad Bhagavatam starts with that. Nirmat Saranam Satam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is for those who are free of envy. And then Krishna is ready to give this knowledge of Jnana Vijnana Sahitam, which will be giving the result of Mokshese Ashubhat, free from all material miseries. And then Krishna tells what he is going to speak. Raj Vidya Raj Guyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksavagamam Dharmam Susukham Kartum Avvayam. This is again very favorite verse of Srila Prabhupada. Let us read the translation. Okay, who will read? Radha Chandrika Mataji, can you read?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. This knowledge is a king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is a perfection of religion.
So
It
Krishna
is everlasting.
Krishna is telling some of the attributes of this divine knowledge which he is going to tell. Saurabh Prabhu, you have a question?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, you told that if something is not going as per the plan and we get depressed, and then that means that we do not have enough faith in Krishna's plan for us, right? But normally, whatever we get depressed and whatever because of unfortunate incident or situations, normally it is the outcome of our previous karmas, right? So how come we are getting if we are getting depressed, how come it is being having an envy feeling with the Krishna?
See, karma will give us future opportunities. But both are important. Deva Netrena is also important. Divine sanction has to be there. If divine sanction is not there, then only by karma we cannot get the result. This is the theory of Jains. Jains think that in Jainism, they think that Supreme Lord is not involved in material nature. It all happens by karma. Even Buddhist thinks that. But the thing is, karma deva netrena, both are important. We will endeavor, and that will create future opportunities, but there has to be sanction from the divine arrangement also. So in our life, whatever is happening, it's not just because of our endeavors. It has to have the sanction of the Supreme Lord. Then only we can get any result in life. So if we don't accept it, then that is like not accepting the ultimate governance of the Supreme Lord. Okay?
Okay.
So these are a few attributes, and they are very important. Devotees should remember them. They should understand them more deeply. First thing is Raj Vidya. Raj Vidya. This knowledge is the king of all knowledge. Raj means king. Raja means king. This knowledge is the king of all education. What does it mean? It means that it is the essence of all different philosophies. It is the essence of all possible knowledge of the world. This particular knowledge. And another meaning of Raj Vidya is, if we study this, if we understand this, then we need not to study any other philosophies. It's alone is enough. Like suppose you have friendship with the king. You don't need to bribe the ministers. The king will do your job. In the same way, this is Raj Vidya. Another aspect of it is Raj Vidya. It takes us to the real king. That is another meaning of Raj Vidya. The Vidya, the knowledge, which takes us to real king, real Raja. Who is real Raja? One who eats Raj Bhog, Krishna. Is real Raja. And that is the essence of all Vedas. Vedescha sarve aham eva vedyo vedanta krit ved vid eva chaham. The object of all knowledge is to understand Krishna, to reach to Krishna, to worship Krishna, to become his devotee. So this Raj Vidya, another meaning is, this knowledge takes us to the real king of all kings, Krishna. Somebody may ask that, why some scriptures say about Shiva or Ganesh or different aspects? Those scriptures are meant for certain class of people, but none of them claim to be Raj Vidya. But here Krishna is openly declaring that this is Vedanta Krit. Krishna made all the Vedas, and he is declaring this particular knowledge as Raj Vidya. Then he is saying another attribute of it, Raj Guyam. It is the king of confidential knowledge also. There's so many knowledge available. Like we get knowledge in university, how to become a good servant, how to become a good sense gratifier. We get knowledge from our mother, our parents, how to live our life. So many knowledge. But confidential knowledge means knowing the science of soul. When this knowledge becomes more intensified, it becomes most confidential knowledge, Raj Guyam, as we discussed before, which is Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha. Sambandha means our relationship with Krishna. Sambandha Gyan. Who are we? Who is Krishna? What is our relationship with him? Next, Pavitram Uttamam. It is purest and highest. Purest. Krishna is pure. Prabhupada translates in Ishopanishad one place, Pavitra as antiseptic. Of course, Prabhupada is having business of pharmacy, so he must be dealing with antiseptics. So Prabhupada translated this pure as Pavitra as antiseptic. You know what antiseptic does? Nothing can impure antiseptic, but antiseptic purifies everybody. Like if you put an antiseptic on your hand will get cleansed of all germs. So Krishna is like that. Nothing can can contaminate Krishna. But Krishna is the purifier of all living entities. Similarly, this knowledge of bhakti is all purifying. Everybody can take benefit of this. We cannot say, though, no, this person is not qualified for bhakti. No, it is antiseptic, it is pavitram. Everybody can practice and become pure. Nobody can be stopped from practicing bhakti. If age was consideration for practicing bhakti, then Prahlad started in the womb. Dhruva started at the age of 5. If strength was the factor for doing bhakti, then Ugrasen, who was the father of Kansa, his own child, his own son, put him in the prison. How he became devotee? He was not powerful, but he became devotee. If high birth was the consideration to get bhakti, then now how Hanuman and other devotees who were in the body of animals like Gajendra, they got Krishna's shelter. How Vidura, who was the son of a maid servant, became Krishna's servant, Krishna's pure devotee. So all these factors tell that Krishna's knowledge of bhakti is pavitram, is all purifying. Anybody can become purified. And uttamam, it's highest. We discussed in the last verse of previous chapter that how by practicing devotional service we get benefit of all study of the Vedas, doing all sacrifices, doing all austerities, doing all charities, anything possible by any kind of spiritualist, devotee gets it. Uttamam. Activity of devotional service is so pure that it doesn't require any previous qualification, but then it gives the highest destination. Therefore, it is Uttamam. And Pratyaksha Avagamam. What is the meaning of Pratyaksha? Pratyaksha means direct experience. So, this process of devotional service is so practical that devotee can himself feel the result while practicing it. He need not to wait for the end result. Like in yogic practice, there is so much austerity, so much pain. Then at end, he will go to Brahmajyoti. In Karma Kanda also, you do sacrifices, you do so many religious activities. At end, you will get sense gratification. But devotional service is, the process is blissful, destination is blissful. While practicing, only devotee starts getting results. Like you all must have experience of investments. So in investments, there are some investments which give results after 10 years, after 20 years. But there are some investments which give result and interest or whatever from the day one. So people now go for that kind of result, that kind of investment. So Pratyaksha Avagamam. We chant Hare Krishna, we feel happy. We assist in preaching work, preaching mission of Srila Prabhupada, we feel satisfied and content. So Pratyaksha Avagamam. Just like if a hungry person eats food, he doesn't have to get certificate from somebody that, oh, I got satisfied or not. No. As he will eat, he will automatically feel satisfied. Similarly, this devotional service is Pratyaksha Avagamam. And as great sages, they are getting the higher taste of spiritual life. Even conditioned souls, they get purified and they also get the same result. Pratyaksha Avagamam. And the last one is very, very important. Susukham kartum abhayam. Very important. Susukham. Bhakti should be happily performed. Simply by sitting, one can learn the highest level of philosophical knowledge, which big jnanis don't have. Susukham. You imagine in previous ages, the yogis were doing so big austerities. They were not eating, They were not having any family life. They were living in the forest and secluded place. So many austerities. And we are eating pizza, lasagna, noodles, and what was that? Dal puri. And we are becoming devotees. Susukham kartum abhyam. Krishna wants to see his souls happy. No father wants to see his souls suffering. So this process of devotional service is happily performed. Our Guru Maharaj used to tell that if you are not happy while practicing Krishna consciousness, then there is some problem in your practice. The result is devotee has to become happy. Like if you're doing experiment in the lab, and the result is not coming, that means you have done some mistake in the procedure. Either you have not washed the test tube, either you have not put the chemical with precise measurement, some problem. Therefore, your result is not coming. And then what we do? We copy the reading from other students because our result is not coming. So that is like hypocrisy. Why devotees don't get happiness? Why they feel sometimes low? Because there is some problem in practice. We can see in our life, if we miss following some principles of devotional service, if we miss any Navada Bhakti aspect, if we miss following the instructions of the spiritual master, the heart will not be happy. Heart will not feel content. But if we practice with full sincerity, susukham. And what kind of happiness? Everlasting. Avyayam. Avyayam means everlasting. This devotional service is never lost. The results are everlasting. So this is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. That we are practicing the highest knowledge. Any person from any background can practice it. This process gives the highest destination. And not that we have to wait for the end result. Even while practicing, we can see the immediate realized experience. And that experience will be blissful. And that bliss will be never ending. So in one verse, Krishna summarizes the process of devotional service. Such a beautiful advertisement Krishna is making for bhakti, for devotional service. He has to sell his product. So his advertisement is bhakti. Now, who cannot hear this message? Krishna is telling in the next verse. Ashraddha dhana purusha dharmasyasya paranatap aprapya mam nivartante mrityu sansara vartani. Let us read the translation. Sachidananda Prabhu, can you read?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world.
Mrityu sansara vartmani. Vartmani means repetition of birth and death. So those who have no faith in the process, the only prerequisite, the only qualification Krishna is mentioning in this verse is Shraddha, faith. And we read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's explanation of Madhurya Kadambini. Also in Bhagavatam, also when Narad Muni tells about his previous life. Everywhere we see this importance of Shraddha. And what is that Shraddha? Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Sudhrida Nishchay Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krita Hai. Chaitanya Charitamrita says, what is Shraddha? Shraddha means, I am practicing Krishna consciousness, Krishna will take care of me. This is Shraddha. I need not to take any other shelter. I am watering the root. I don't need to root other parts of the tree separately. This is Shraddha. And those who are Ashraddha Dhana, those who don't have that Shraddha, they cannot practice Krishna consciousness. And if they cannot practice Krishna consciousness, how they will get out of the clutches of this material world. So Shraddha is very important. How do we develop Shraddha? In the association of devotees. Those who have Shraddha, we should take help of such devotees. Actually, classification of devotees is on the basis of how much faith they have. Jahar Komal Shraddha Sei Kanishta Jan Krame Krame Teno Bhakta Hoi Be Uttam. So, those who have very tender faith, very shaky faith, they are Kanishta, they are beginners, neophytes. Krame Krame Teno Bhakta Hoi Be Uttam. As their faith increase on the spiritual master, on the process of devotional service, on the existence of Krishna's spiritual world, that faith is the sign of advancement of devotee. And those who are resolute in their faith, Nishthavan Bhakta, they are Uttamadikaris. So like that, Krishna is telling the prerequisite that we have to have Shraddha. And we don't have Shraddha, we can't practice Krishna consciousness. Yes, Amar Nitai Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. In the beginning, you said that first three verses are qualification and disqualification. So I could not connect it with the second verse. How is it connected with qualification? But these are the...
See, second verse mainly telling what this bhakti, the process of bhakti does. So suppose I am not happy, susukham, not happening. That means there is some problem. One of the qualifications, or we can see symptoms, symptoms is a better word. Symptoms of practitioner of devotional service is given by Krishna in the second verse. If that's not happening with us, then there is some problem. So we can see that through our practice of Krishna consciousness. And basically Krishna is focusing on non-enviousness and Shraddha. These two basic qualification and disqualification, Krishna is telling Arjun, Arjun, you are non-envious, therefore you are qualified. And Ashraddha Dhana, those who don't have faith, not qualified. So that way Krishna is telling about the qualification and disqualification. Okay. So now, after giving this introduction, Krishna moves to the second part of this chapter, where Krishna is sharing his inconceivable relationship with the material world. So 4 to 10, these 7 verses are dealing with this relationship of Krishna with the material world. So expect what we will do. We will study these verses in teams. So we were not doing this for last 2 classes. I am sure devotees were very happy that we don't have to do this group exercise. But today you have to do this austerity. It's not austerity, it's fun. So let's do this group exercise. We'll divide the class in 4 groups. The first team will be doing 9.4 and 5. The second team will do 9.6 and 7. The third team will do 9.8 and 9. And fourth team will do 9.10. What we need to do is, we have to present, based on these verses, Krishna's relationship with the material world. Now, our presentation should become more attractive. How we can make it more attractive? We should use Sanskrit terms. Like you remember in each chapter, I tell you to mark certain words in the verses, not the full verse, but some words, some lines, some phrases. So we should use those phrases. And we should also use analogies. Now these analogies you can take from Prabhupada's purports. You can also take some examples from the contemporary world. You can also take examples from the scriptures. So Krishna is bringing out many important lessons in the next few verses, how he is related to the material world. So decide one speaker from your team, give your points, all the team members can give points to them, and give chance to those who have not spoken. Today it worked. Many devotees are hearing with videos on. So it works. When we give chance to devotees who are switching off their videos. So you can also do that in your group. Give chance to those who are not switching on their videos. So they will be inspired to switch on their videos. Okay, so preparation time will be 10 minutes. Please take 10 good minutes, but prepare nicely. And presentation time will be only 2 minutes. So keep your presentation to the point, very concise, with examples, Sanskrit phrases, to the point. Okay? So I am just creating the groups. Okay, you can join your groups. Hare Krishna. Welcome back. I hope there was a nice discussion.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, the time was very less.
Very less.
We
Wow.
started the discussion right just now.
Okay, so
We
do
did
you
not
want 2 more
start
minutes?
once.
2 more minutes? Will it work?
Yes, Prabhu, we need a few more minutes.
Yes, Prabhu, please.
Not few.
Yeah.
Did not.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
You can rejoin.
join.
Just 2 minutes
Yeah.
in our discussion. Hare Krishna. So let us hear from group 1. Who is the speaker? Group 1.
So I am representing the group 1.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So it is 9.4 and 9.5. And we are relating this to 7.4 and 7.5 of chapter 7.4 and 7.5. In the previous chapters where, the energies of Krishna is talking about these energies of Krishna. So Krishna is saying that Krishna is everywhere, tatam, his energy is everywhere. So that's the way we see this, tatam. But we cannot perceive Krishna because we are today, the material energy or the external energy of Krishna has put us in a state that until and unless we don't practice devotional service, that we cannot get out of this energy. And again, this is 7.14, where Krishna says that, that this divine energy of mine is, this divine is very difficult to overcome. So we are stuck in that energy. It's only that through the practice, and which we're seeing now by devotional service, like in 9.2, where Krishna is talking how to connect to him, and through then we can that we start getting trying to get our material senses to be Krishna conscious senses, whereby we can perceive Krishna, because till we were not in spiritual, or we did not read the Gita, we are not associated with devotees, we can't understand this world, what it is, what am I here for, why am I here, what if this whole world is, why we are suffering like this. So all this is that this connection, this association with Krishna, to allow us to start taking out this lust or this enjoying propensity which we have been having from time immemorial, that to understand that Krishna is the enjoyer, and we are to be enjoyed. And as long as we can to be joyful, as in 9.2, susukam, that we have to connect to that energy of Krishna, from the spiritual one, not the external energy, to the internal energy. And Krishna will guide us accordingly, though, we can take, like in 10.10, you were talking just now of the Chatur, sloki, where Krishna, within us, these 4 verses, that he's the creator of everything, and that when we connect to him, he's being in our heart, he, destroy the ignorance which is in our heart. So this is a bit, these 2 verses, which 9:4 and 9:5, that Krishna is aloof, but at the same time he's near. He's away when we are in material senses, we are totally in the grip of Maya. But as we get more and more Krishna consciousness, then the clouds, all these clouds start dissipating, and we see things in the proper perspective. I think this is to the extent we have been able to look at these 2 verses. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Bharat Krishna Prabhu, for sharing the very important points related to these 2 verses. So 9.4, Krishna tells how Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina masthani sarva bhutani naham na chaham teshu avasthita. So he says that he is the source of all entire universe, and how he maintains it by his unmanifested form, avyakta murtina. What is that avyakta murtina? This avyakta murtina, Srila Prabhupada describes in 2 ways. One is through Paramatma. Paramatma is the super soul residing in every atom and every living entity's heart. And another way is by his energies. So avyakta murtina, although he is invisible, but he is all pervading. And this invisible become visible by devotional service. Another thing, matsthani sarva bhutani na chaham teshu avasthita. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Now this is contradictory, because on one way he's saying entire universe is pervaded through his unmanifested form. So he has to be there in everything. But why he's saying I am not in them? I am not in them. Here Krishna is saying the 2-handed form, who is the source of all sources, who is the cause of all causes. He is not dependent on his creation. Like the king, he has many departmental heads, and they run the country. But it's not that king is invisible. King is also a person apart from his country. So like that, Krishna is telling how he is the source, he is the maintainer of everything. Yet, he is not dependent on his creation. He is giving the more elaboration in the next verse. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not part of this cosmic manifestation. For myself is the very source of creation. So like Krishna is not like living entities. Living entities, they accept a body, they protect it, they develop attachment to the body and remain in that body. But Krishna is not like that. He is maintaining, accepting all living entities, whole material creation. But since he is not attached to it, he is doing it through his energies. Therefore, Krishna is saying, it's not that I am a part of this cosmic manifestation. No. He is aloof of it. At the same time, he is maintaining it through his different energies and expansions. Yes, Namrasita Mataji.
Prabhu, this line, but I am not in them, I have been always thinking what does this mean. But then why doesn't in the translation Prabhupada write straight away that I'm not dependent on them, on the material nature. I am not in them. It was very confusing, this line.
Which one?
Like
which verse? Fourth
all
one?
beings are in me, but I am not in them. So why straight away it is not written, I am not dependent on them?
No. See, the previous verse, there are two aspects. Krishna is saying how he maintains this world through Avyakta Murtina. Now, what is Avyakta Murtina? What is his unmanifestation, unmanifested form? First is his energies. And second is his form as Paramatma, because we cannot see Paramatma with our material eyes. Avyakta Murtina. But Krishna is speaking about his personal form, that I am not in them. He as Bhagavan, he is the source of all energies, all Paramatma expansions. He is not dependent, he is not entangled in the material world. So he is aloof. Dhamna Swena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimai. He is residing in his eternal abode. But through his expansions, he is present in this material world. That is the difference. Okay? Venudhari Prabhu?
Krishna Prabhuji, in the text 5, and yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Spot I could not understand, Prabhuji. Does not rest in me.
See, when Krishna says me, the same point which Vanamra Sita Mataji was telling. When he says me, here Krishna is saying personal me. I don't have to go there and personally do the job on the field. I do it through my energies. That is the thing. Krishna doesn't need to hold this world himself. You have seen the Greek gods. A person is holding the earth, Atlas. You seen that? God is not like that. Krishna is not like that. Krishna doesn't need to personally be there to hold this world together. He do it with his expansions and energies. So when he's saying me means a personal form of Krishna, as standing in front of Arjuna. So that's what Krishna is saying. But how he maintains? By Avyakta Murtina, by his expansions and energies. Okay?
Thank you.
Also, Prabhu, one more thing, I was just, whenever I used to read this verse, Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Can we also understand it that sometimes, like especially the impersonalists or people, they imagine the nature as God, and or maybe there is some tree, they start worshipping the tree, or some stone is there in some mountain, and that becomes a temple and it becomes God for them. So can we understand it in that way also, that he is not in that? Like, I'm not in them. So can we understand it that way also?
See, Krishna is present everywhere through his expansion. So we can't say that he is not present. He is present. But the thing is, we have to understand that his Bhagavan feature, as he's standing in front of Arjuna, the source of all incarnations, he is aloof from it. The first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam tells this, that how Lord is beyond, he lives in his spiritual world eternally. So that is his personal Bhagavan feature. But yes, through his expansions, he is present everywhere. Can't we say that in a stone there is Paramatma? There is Paramatma in the stone. So we cannot deny that Lord is not present there. Yes, he is present there. But as his personal Bhagavan form, we can't restrict him to material creation. No. He is the source of material creation. So he lives eternally in this spiritual abode. Okay? Okay, yes, Bharat Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, can we say that, like in Brahma Samhita, where Krishna said that he's in all the living entities and even present in the atoms. So everything is made by atoms, and we know that Krishna is saying that we can't see it.
Yes, we can't see it. Avyakta means which we cannot perceive, we cannot see with our material senses. Atom we can see by microscope, but Krishna we cannot see by microscope.
Krishna within.
We cannot see with microscope because Krishna is spiritual. We cannot see with material eyes. Only by one method, which I was discussing, Avyakta will become Vyakta. Invisible will become visible only by one method, devotional service. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. When eyes are anointed with pure love for Krishna, then we can see him everywhere. Sthavar jangam dekhi, na dekhi tara murti, sarvatra hoy tar ishtadever spurti. So when somebody is in that pure love, he can see Krishna everywhere. But that is only possible with pure devotional service. Okay? Okay. Here from team 2. Who is the speaker?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I'm the speaker for team 2.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. So we were discussing text 6 and text 7 of the. So Krishna's relationship with the material world is explained by Krishna in that verse so beautifully, where he says that the sky and the wind in the air is the biggest manifestation in the cosmic world. And the movement of the air influences the movement of everything. But although the wind is so mighty, it is still situated within the sky, and the wind is not beyond the sky. So Krishna says, so too, he who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead is aloof from everything, as the sky is always aloof from the activities of the wind. So there's so much that rests on Krishna, because he ends the verse says that understand that as the mighty wind blowing everywhere, rest always in the sky. All created beings rest in me. And then he goes on to give another example. Prabhupada goes on to give another example that says that everything that in the world happens through the will of Krishna. Not a blade of grass will move without the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And another beautiful analogy is where, our group said that by the supreme order, Krishna says, under the superintendence of the supreme order of Krishna, the moon, the sun, and other great planets are moving. So everything is resting on Krishna. And then there is a description of the movement of the sun, and it is said that the sun is considered to be one of the eyes of the Supreme Lord, and that if it has immense potency to diffuse heat and light. So there's some wonderful analogies in text 6, which show that under the complete control of Krishna, we all are. Everything, any living entity, the wind, the sun, the moon, the planets, all planetary expansion belongs to Krishna, and he controls it. And then in text 7,
your voice is breaking little.
Okay, so I'm going to go a bit slowly. So the quotation in text 7 is Sarva Bhutani Kunteya Praktim Yanti Mamikam Kalpa Kashya Punastani Kalpado Vishrajami Aham. And here Krishna is explaining that the creation and maintenance and annihilation of this material cosmic manifestation are completely dependent on his supreme will. And even after 100 years, when Brahma dies, the devastation or the annihilation takes place. And this means that the energy manifested by Krishna is again wound up in Krishna. Then again, when there is a need to manifest the cosmic world, it is done by his will. Then he mentions the Sanskrit word Bahu Sham. And although I am one, I shall become many. So this is the power, the mighty power of Krishna's relationship with the material world. He expands himself in this material energy, and the whole cosmic manifestation again takes place. So we are like astounded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his amazing will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji, sharing the different points on these two verses. And Very beautifully you brought that how Krishna is maintaining them, yet he is not attached. And this example Krishna is giving of wind and sky. Understand that as the mighty wind blowing everywhere rests always in the sky, all created beings rest in me. Very important example. See, wind flows in the sky, but sky doesn't get affected by the wind. Like we can see the nature of wind. Yes, wind is very powerful, it can go anywhere. But then if wind passes through a foully place, then wind carries that aroma, right? But have you seen sky getting contaminated? Sky never gets contaminated. There is saying if you spit at sky, what will happen? That thing will come on you only. So we cannot contaminate the Lord. But air can get contaminated. In the same way, Supreme Lord is giving this analogy that air has to flow in the sky, in the ether. But sky is not limited to the wind. Even if there is no flow of the wind, sky will still exist. So in the same way, Lord is not dependent on the creation. Lord is not dependent on the living entities. But living entities, they are dependent on the Supreme Lord. So then, question may be asked that, okay, they are presently situated in the Supreme Lord. What happens at the time of destruction? Where they go? So that is the answer in the 7th verse. Krishna is saying, O son of Kunti, at the end of millennium, all material manifestations enter into my nature. And at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I create them again. Now here my nature is talking about Mahavishnu. We understand these things by the commentary of the Acharyas. Otherwise, it will be very confusing. Krishna is saying my nature in the previous chapters, that is indicating to the spiritual world. So do all living entity go to spiritual world? No. So here my nature means they go to Mahavishnu. And then when again creation happens, then they are sent back to the respective species. Yes, Namrasita Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu, in this only verse, it is mentioned about 30 such days and nights, and a year of 12 months. So Brahma, in the spiritual world also, it is the same 30 days of month and 12 months of the year. It is the same, like in material
Does it
world.
say about spiritual world or Brahma Loka?
Yes, it has. It is talking about the days of Brahma.
Brahma.
So his month.
Brahma we have already studied in last chapter. Yes, 1 month of 30 days. And 1 day is long as 1 kalpa, 1000 chaturyugas. So that is for Brahma, not for spiritual world. In a spiritual world, there is no time. Time is only in the material nature. Okay. Yes, Bharat Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, okay. So in 6 here, Krishna is talking about the created beings. And 7, he talks about the material manifestation. So he dissociates these two. So when he's talking about, in the next, another millennium, I create them again, he's creating the material manifestation in
Yes.
7. So why does he dissociate these two, as regards to the, and I mean, Krishna is free to say whatever he wants, but I mean, is there some valid reason?
When he speaks about material manifestation, he also includes conditioned souls. So it's like dissolving the material manifestation, the material world, and then again creating the material world. So it involves conditioned souls. He cannot separate conditioned souls with material condition, because in 7th chapter we studied, these living entities are dharyate jagat. They are exploiting the material nature. So they cannot be separated. So when Krishna is talking about material manifestation, dissolving it, and again creating it, it involves conditioned souls also. So in that way, Krishna
Okay.
is actually going to that link only.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so let's hear from third team. Who is the speaker? One
Hare
interesting
Krishna
thing,
Prabhu.
the previous batch I took, just to inspire you, the previous batch I took, and there were many devotees from different parts of the world. In these 10 minutes, they used to discuss, they used to write points, and they used to make a small PPT also in these 10 minutes presentation. And they would present with the PPT. They were so fast. I don't know how they used to do it. I was also very much impressed, but they were so fast. Anyway, so we are not expecting that, but I'm just telling that 10 minutes are good enough for even making PPT. So we should at least have discussion and have oral presentation ready. Yes, third team, who is the speaker?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
So from verse 9.8, it describes how Krishna has created the whole cosmic manifestation. At the very beginning, at the creation, he enters material energy as Mahavishnu, and then lying in the causal ocean, through his breath, he creates innumerable universes and enters each universe as Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and within that each universe, everything that manifests, even into the minute atom, he enters as Shirodakashaya Vishnu. And at that very moment of creation, the activities of different species also begin. Likewise, Krishna has created the whole cosmic manifestation, yet he is aloof from all the material activities that takes place within it. And the Sanskrit word that describe him is Udasinavad, which means he is neutral. Material activities carried out by the different material activities are carried out by his different potencies, and even Krishna have control over the every minute details, yet he's sitting as if he's neutral. And this neutrality is given by an analogy. A high judge court is sitting on his bench giving his orders, yet he stays neutral and has nothing to do with the loss or gain. Likewise, Krishna is Sachidanand and has nothing to do with material activities. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Diya Mataji. Yes, this example of High Court judge is very important to understand these two verses, because Krishna is, although maintaining, dissolving, and again, this creation is happening under his direction, still he doesn't get affected by it. Why we are having this discussion and why Krishna is spending so much time in this, explaining this, because when people come to spiritual life, 99% of spiritualists are impersonalists. And a good portion of impersonalists are Mayavadis. What they think, their whole theory is, when Lord comes in contact of mode of goodness, he becomes incarnation. When he comes in the mode of passion, he becomes living entity. When he comes in contact of ignorance, he becomes matter. This is 100% bogus theory. If three modes can influence the Supreme Lord, then three modes will be superior to the Supreme Lord. But nothing can be superior to the Supreme Lord. So here Krishna is clarifying that again and again, that yes, everything is happening under my direction, but I am aloof from it. Let us read this translation. Okay, let me see who is with off video. Anupama Mataji, would you like to read 9.8 translation? Please unmute.
The whole cosmic order is under me, under my will. It is automatically manifested again and again, and under my will, it is annihilated at the end.
So by Krishna's sweet will, these creations are manifesting and annihilating. Why Krishna has to do this? Because Krishna wants to make sure that living entity don't become settled in the material world. If a jail is very comfortable, no prisoner will want to come out of the jail. So this material world is perfectly designed in this way so that living entity realize that why so many times annihilation, why so many miseries, why this impermanent nature of the material world, non-permanent nature of the material world. That is not my home. So then living entity has to think about the permanent situation, which is spiritual world. So then there can be a thought that, okay, you are doing so much, still you are not affected. Krishna says, yes, I am Udasina. As Mataji was mentioning, Udasina vad asina asaktam teshu karmashu. Let us read this. Devadev Prabhu, can you read the translation?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Oh Dhananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached from all these material activities, seated as though neutral.
So Krishna is neutral. Although everything is happening by his will, Tava Iksha Bal Sab Mayar Bash. Everybody is under illusion and everything is happening by Krishna's desire. So somebody may blame that, oh, we are doing sinful activity, we are suffering material world. It's all by Krishna's desire. It is like parents approving the demands of adamant children. Sometimes children, they may have cold and cough and they become very adamant that we want to eat ice cream. Then parents may allow, okay, they're so adamant, crying, not eating anything. Parents may approve, but that approval is udasina vadasina. It's not a very happy approval. It's the neutral approval. And then who suffers? Parents don't suffer. The child only suffers by eating ice cream. If he gets cold, it will increase the cough. So in the same way, Lord is like, Prabhupada is giving example of High Court judge. High Court judge may give somebody penalty. Okay, you have to pay 1 crore rupees. High Court judge will not get that 1 crore rupees. He is not getting affected by it. Or you will be hanged to death. High Court judge will not be hanged to death, but the person will have to suffer this. So Krishna being neutral, detached, under his supervision, the world is functioning, but he is not affected by it. Yes, Namarasita Mataji.
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhu. I want to know in this verse 9.8, there are a few lines. At the creation, the material energy is let loose as the Mahat Tattva, into which the Lord, as his first Purush incarnation, Mahavishnu enters. The material energy is let loose, but you said that Mahat Tattva is always there. It is kind of a storage house for material energy.
So what Lord does? He makes it functional. When Lord glances on the Mahat Tattva, then this Mahat Tattva becomes functional. Prakriti becomes functional. So the Lord is actually activating the material energy. That's what is mentioned in that line. It's there always, is in unmanifested form. But then Lord makes it active by his material energy. Okay? Saurabh Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, you said that the Lord is saying that he is acting as a neutral. But with his devotees, he's a friend and he guides them. So how is neutral?
He is neutral in sense that anybody can approach Krishna. See, being impartial doesn't mean you will not help anybody. Like India's secular state. Secular state means no religion. That is not secular state, that is atheistic state. Secular state means any religion can perform. In the same way, neutral means anybody can approach Krishna. He is not unnecessarily giving somebody devotional service, and he is not unnecessarily keeping somebody away from devotional service. But if somebody takes full shelter of Krishna, will he not take care of his devotees? He will take full charge of his devotees. Yes, he is neutral. Teacher is neutral to all students. Teacher is not partial. But the student who has written full marks paper, teacher will not give him full marks. No. All students should get same marks. I am neutral. That is not neutral. That is partial. Being neutral means as living entities are approaching Krishna, Krishna is helping them accordingly. Somebody doesn't want Krishna in life, Krishna say, okay, you be under Maya. So you want Krishna in life, Krishna said, okay, I am yours. So that way Krishna is neutral. Okay. So let us hear from the fourth team. Yeah, Namrasita Mataji.
Oh, okay, Prabhu. I thought teams are over. We can do that question in the last room. I have from the previous one.
Yeah, you can speak now.
It is 9.2. The lines are, it is not as the Mayavadi philosophers claim. Let me read. It is said here that this devotional service is eternally existing. It is not as the Mayavadi philosophers claim. Although they sometimes take to so-called devotional service, their idea is that as long as they are not liberated, they will continue their devotional service. But at the end, when they become liberated, they will become one with God. So, Mayavadi also take to devotional service till the time they get liberated. Does this mean?
There is concept of, actually it's not pure devotional service, but there is concept of Panchopasana, where Mayavadis worship different deities. Like they worship Ganesh, they worship Surya, they worship Shakti, Durga, they worship Lord Shiva, and they worship Lord Narayan, Vishnu. But their objective is, once we become perfect, then we don't need to worship anybody because we'll become God. That is their concept. Danda grahana matrena naro narayana bhavet. That is their logic. Just by accepting danda of a sannyasi, now I become Narayan. Namo Narayan. I am Narayan. You are Narayan. I am Narayan. Everybody is Narayan. So why I should worship myself? No need. That is their concept. So their sense of devotional service is actually not bhakti, but that is only they take the externals of bhakti. But they don't do bhakti in essence. That is the meaning. Okay. Externally they may be chanting, like in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a incident where Raghunath Bhatta Goswami comes to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and one person accompanies him. His name was Ramdas Vishwas, and he would chant Lord Ram's name constantly. And he was also helping Raghunath Bhatta Goswami carrying his luggage and things. So when they finally reached Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed so much affection to Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, but he neglected this Ramdas Vishwas. So Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was thinking, oh, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why is neglecting him? He is chanting Lord Ram name constantly, and Mahaprabhu loves chanting, congregational chanting of the holy name. Why Mahaprabhu is neglecting him? Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him that this Ramdas Vishwas has tendency that by chanting holy name, one day he'll become Ram. So he has this Mayavad concept. So externally he is making show of chanting holy name, but internally he is a Mayavadi. So I don't want to see his face. So that is the thing. The Mayavadis may externally take the process of devotional service, but in essence, they don't follow the path of bhakti. Okay. Okay, so last team, fourth team. Who is the speaker?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams.
Hare Krishna. Let me
Prabhuji,
introduce Arjun Prabhu. Amal Arjun Prabhu is from Kuwait, and he is a very qualified chartered accountant there, and he's very learned devotee also. Mataji is also running a Sunday school there, guiding many children, and Prabhuji is also a very big preacher actually. He gives so many classes. He can teach Bhakti Sastri, but
Oh,
as
Prabhuji, don't say that.
but giving his association, he is
I
attending this.
want to be a student always.
Good news is he is shifting to Ujjain now. He has already seen one property here, and with his family, he is shifting in Ujjain full time. So we'll hear from him.
Haribol.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Haribol.
Prabhuji, in 910, Maya Dakshena Prakriti Suyate Cha Characharam Hetunanena Kaunteya Jagat Viparivartate. So here Lord says the material nature, which is actually one of his energies, is working under his direction. And this includes all the moving and non-moving beings. And under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So in the purport, Prabhupada says it is clearly stated that the Supreme Lord, although aloof from all activities of the material world, remains the Supreme Director. So the analogy that the team has actually discussed is that a typical CEO of an enterprise, a big industry. So the CEO is actually the owner of the enterprise, and all the activities of the company are actually delegated to various other employees, such as the chief operating officer, the general manager, supervisors, workers, etc. So what happens is, the CEO is not involved in the day-to-day activities, like he doesn't know the nuts and bolts of the activities. Since the delegation happens, so he has initially set up the enterprise, and then everything is delegated to various employees. Then the Supreme Lord is the supreme will and the background of this manifestation, but the management is being conducted by the material nature. So that is the equivalent analogy. And then we can see that like a father gives seeds to the womb of the mother for the child, and similarly the Supreme Lord by his mere glance injects all the living entities into the womb. So basically, if the CEO would have not started the enterprise, there's no way that there could be employees who are entrusted with various activities. So this is one example. The other example is that we have seen that the father is basically the controlling entity within a family, and he gives limited powers or limited jurisdiction to his family members, like the wife, the children, etc. And if something really goes wrong, then he comes back again in order to take corrective measures to safeguard the interests of the family. So similarly, Bhagavan also is like that. He's actually everything works under his direction, and under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So he takes a call, and if he feels that something is going wrong, he will wind up that particular activity. And finally, the last three lines are very nice. So one of our team members has beautifully has mentioned this. In summary, material nature without the superintendence of the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot do anything. Yet the Supreme Personality of Godhead is detached from all the material activities. And there's another example. One of the Matajis mentioned about the two birds on a tree. One bird is continuously eating the fruit and is going through the effects of eating the fruit, whereas the other bird is actually the witness in seeing what is happening. So these are some of the examples that came to our mind when we read this translation and purport, Babuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Amararjun Prabhu, this verse is very important verse. You can mark this verse, and one of the most quoted verses of Srila Prabhupada. Maya dhakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. That this word Maya dhakshena is very important. You know, in Hindi and Sanskrit, the word adhyaksha is very common. Adhyaksha. Like in English, we call president. In Sanskrit or Hindi, it is called Adhyaksha. What is the meaning of Adhyaksha? Aksha means eyes. Aksha means eyes. Like Kamalaksha, Ambujaksha, Arunaksha. Aksha means eyes. Adhyaksha means one who can control with his eyes. When people are under the moment of his eyes, just by showing the eyes, the moment of eyes, he can control everything. That is Adhyaksha. In Sanskrit, there is meaning behind each name. Adhyaksha means just by the motion of his eyes, he can control his people, he can control his work, he can control the activity. Now, what Krishna is saying, Maya Dakshena Prakriti, under my supervision, Prakriti works, material nature works. Just by the moment of Krishna's eyes, Krishna glances, the Prakriti becomes active. So, real Adhyaksha is Krishna. We keep showing people eyes, nobody works. You keep shouting also, nobody works. But Krishna's real Adhyaksha, just by his glancing, Prakriti starts working. Maya Dakshena Prakriti. Suyate sa characharam. Characharam means, chara means moving entities, and acharam means non-moving entities, like trees and other non-moving entities. In Vedic times, even mountains would fly, so they would fall in char category. But now mountains don't fly, so they fall in achar category. So there are so many char and achar, means moving and non-moving entities, and they all are under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. And under his order only, Jagat Parivartate is manifested and annihilated again and again. So just like, somebody may smell a flower from a distance, he is not affected by the flower. So Krishna is like that, person who is taking smell of the flower, but not touching it. So he is glancing over the material nature, making it active, everything, but he is not getting directly involved in it. So these verses tell our relationship, tell Krishna's relationship with the material nature. Yes, Namrasita Mataji.
Prabhu, like when Vishnu glances on and the Supreme Lord, can I read these lines? Supreme Lord, by his mere glance, injects all the living entities into the womb of material nature, and they come out in the different forms and species according to their last desire. So, what is the role of Brahma then? How he is creating?
Brahma is the secondary creator. Brahma creates different species. He populates the creation. Like 14 planetary systems are made by Krishna. But then there has to be different elements inside that. So he populates it. Like one engineer, he constructs the structure. And then architect fills it, the furniture and other things. The Brahma's job is secondary creator. So that is his job. Okay.
So he's giving the bodies to the various living entities?
The bodies are created by Brahma.
Okay.
Different species of bodies are created by Brahma. Different elements of nature like rivers, the oceans, mountains, these are all Brahma's creations. But the basic structure of 14 planetary systems, sun, moon, these are created by the Supreme Lord himself. So this subject matter is more in detail in Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Saurabh Prabhu?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So, Prabhuji, I have one question. In this it is written that all non-moving things, so material and moving both. What are the examples right now in our present daily lives?
Who are living and non-moving.
Who are moving and material. Because Krishna is saying this material nature, which is one of our energies.
Our bodies, material but moving. birds, animals, reptiles, they're moving, but non-spiritual.
But that will not come under Jivatma. But this is not come under material because body is material, but the inside is Jivatma.
Krishna, that way it doesn't work. See, it's moving. It's moving because of soul, that is different thing. But Krishna is saying char and achar. Like trees, they are also living, but they're not moving. So that doesn't mean they are material and we are spiritual. No. We all have material bodies, material conditioned lives. But some are moving, some are not moving. That is
So
different.
in the earlier days, like you said, like for example, I will just give you, like for example, Ganga, Ganga is a moving, and it will come under spiritual, or it will come under the living being, Jivatma, or it will come under material.
Yes. All rivers are persons. All rivers are persons. Mountains are persons. Mountains are living. Now our science may not accept it, but as per Vedic understanding, mountains are persons. Rivers are persons. Like Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, Kaveri, they are all persons.
But so Himalayas are persons, but they are not moving.
They are not moving. Yeah, all mountains, they are persons. Like who is Parvati? Shailaputri, the daughter of mountain. So there has to be a person who will have daughter like Parvati. Okay. Yes, Bharat Krishna Prabhu.
Prabhu, somewhere I read, I can't recall, that Brahma, though he is the secondary creator, that he has to create as per the plan of Krishna. All right, so he doesn't have the freedom to create, at his own will and fancies. I mean, could you just clarify this?
Yes, 100%. Brahma has to work under the direction of Krishna. In fact, the knowledge for creation comes from Krishna. Tene Brahma Hrida Yadi Kavai. The knowledge is given by Krishna. Otherwise, Brahma was not even knowing who is he, how he came in this world, what he's supposed to do. But Krishna directs him through heart. And then he creates this material nature as a service to Krishna. So he is secondary creator and also dependent creator, where Krishna is independent creator. Like for that instance, there's another type of creator, Vishwakarma. He's like an engineer for demigods. Now Vishwakarma, he creates things. Like demigods want some nice palace, Vishwakarma will make it. But one time Vishwakarma thought, let me make a planet of my own. Let's not involve Krishna now. We are also something. So he created a planet. Now this planet started to revolve on its own and he started to devastate Vishwakarma only. Then he chanted, "Oh Lord Hari, please help me." Then Lord Krishna came and rescued Vishwakarma. So these are like secondary creators. They are dependent on Krishna. They're not independent. Okay. Yes, Keshav Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. In text 6, it is said that the sun is considered to be one of the eyes of the Supreme Lord.
Yes.
And that it has an immense potency to heat and light. But then in one of the beginning of the chapter, we had mentioned the Bhagavad Gita as it is says that Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god, yeah. And so if that was the eye of Krishna, and he spoke it to his eye, if you can just explain that with more
Here we
clarity.
have to understand, we will study this in detail in 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. See, this Virat Rupa, Krishna's universal form, is not Krishna's real spiritual form. That is Krishna's materialistic form, or in better words, seeing Krishna through material aspects. So when we see material things, we see sun and moon, they are eyes of universal form. That means whenever we see sun and moon, we should remember Krishna. Whenever we see rivers, they are like veins of Krishna. Whenever we see mountains, they are like raised parts of Krishna's body. Oceans are the navel of Krishna. The trees are like hairs on Krishna's body. So all these are different aspects to see Krishna in nature. But that doesn't mean that Krishna is limited to this nature. No, that is material manifestation of Krishna. But in a spiritual form, Krishna is having spiritual body. Nothing to do with sun and moon. That Krishna gave knowledge to Vivaswan. That Satchidananda Roop of Krishna, he gave knowledge to Vivaswan. Okay? So, sorry we went little more than time today, but I'll just take just 1 minute more. This is a homework for all devotees. You have now 4 days to meditate on it. How these verses 4 to 10, 9.4, 9.5, 9.6, 9.10, all these verses of this chapter 4 to 10, how they help one to become Ananya Bhakta, pure devotee. Krishna is talking about creation, Krishna is talking about all this. How this will help me to become pure devotee? This is the question. Is it clear? So we should think on it. Next time when we meet, we'll start discussion from here. So devotees can write their thoughts. How these verses will help one to become pure devotee? Because Krishna started this chapter that pure devotional service. But then he's talking about his relationship with the material world. How does that actually help? So please think on it. And when we meet again next time, then we'll start from this discussion. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai. Bhakti Vriksha Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.